Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dave Goodwin. My call is VE9CB. I'm the RAC Member Services Officer, and I'm here to present today on the RAC Canadian Portable Operations Challenge, or the RAC Challenge, a new operating award program created by RAC. So this operating program, the RAC Challenge, is all about portable operations. One of the things about portable operations is they've become extremely popular, not just among Canadian amateurs, but among amateurs all over the world. There are a number of awards programs that are oriented towards portable operations, and this award serves to try and encourage activity in all of those various programs. Some of the advantages of portable operations are that they will help you develop your skills. You'll develop operating skills, you'll become a better operator because you're able to perhaps handle more, you'll have more experience handling large numbers of callers. There are some technical challenges that you have to overcome. If you're going to be operating from a remote location, you have to figure out where you're going to get your power from. You have to figure out antennas that you can deploy quickly, easily, and that are effective. You also have to figure out what kind of equipment is suitable for the kind of portable operation you're going to undertake. Portable operations represent an opportunity for us to do a little bit of PR, a little public relations, where we can reach out to the public, show them a little bit about what amateur radio is about, and maybe encourage a better understanding and perhaps even recruit a few people. One of the other aspects of amateur radio, of course, is emergency preparedness. If we're going to be really effective in providing services to the public in times of emergency, we have to have the skills to be able to deploy our stations with completely independently and in the middle of nowhere. So the objectives of the RAC Challenge are all oriented towards serving those goals. The whole idea of the RAC Challenge is to recognize and reward portable operations, to give people recognition for doing this kind of activity. Those who participate, we're trying to encourage you to try some of the different on-the-air programs. There are a whole series of portable operations activities, and each of them seems to be somewhat stovepiped and unrelated to the other. But this program, the RAC program, may encourage you to think about all of those programs when you go out and contemplate your portable operations. The RAC Challenge also encourages you to get outdoors more often, to go out and deploy your station in different locations. We want to encourage you to build up your skills in operating and in setting up a station in a remote spot. You'll take the time perhaps to improve the quality of your equipment, and when you go out there, when you're going and setting up a station perhaps in a public place, you will probably meet members of the public and you can introduce them to amateur radio. That may be a means by which we can recruit new hams. Now, amateur radio in Canada is growing quite nicely, but we can always use more hams. So this is set up as a challenge, and any challenge, any award program has to have a set of rules. And what I'm going to describe the next moment or two are some of the ideas underpinning the way that the rules of this program work. First off, the Portable Operations Challenge relates only to operations from temporary locations. DXpeditions, expeditions of various kinds, mobile operations, portable setups, any kind of setup where you're away from home and not using some kind of permanent station, that is a portable operation. Now, for the RAC Challenge, we only want your logs. We don't want your logs. We want only reports of your activities. So what we've done is we've created an easy online form that asks you about your operations in a questionnaire form. So after you've gone out and done a portable operation, come back, sit down at a web-enabled computer and fill out the questionnaire describing your activity. Now, all the information you provide is based on the honor system. There might be some verification that might happen from time to time, but again, we're not looking for your logs. We're not looking for detailed evidence of what you did. What we're looking for is your reports of the kind of activities you've done as a radio amateur out in the field. So in the RAC Challenge, any contacts on any band count. The only contacts that really don't count are those that are made through repeaters. But satellite contacts or any other direct one-on-one contact in amateur radio on any amateur band is encouraged and a part of this challenge. You can work the same station multiple times each day, as long as each of those contacts is on a different band or mode, or perhaps on a different satellite. There are a number of ways that you can work multiple stations each day. In the course of the questionnaire, we're going to ask you to indicate where exactly you operated from, and we're going to ask you to define your location in terms of your province or territory, your grid locator, and whether you operated from any of the other operating award programs that are loosely affiliated with the RAC Challenge. The minimum number of contacts you have to make in order to make a report for the RAC Challenge is 1. The idea here is that we want to be able to reward and recognize the successful failure. If you were able to go out in the field and set up a station, get on the air, and make even 1 contact, even if things didn't work out very well, if you didn't hit your objectives, if you made at least 1 contact, it becomes a valid operation for the purposes of the challenge. Some of the parallel programs that run alongside the RAC Challenge may have their own limits, own requirements for a certain number of contacts, but ours is a simple 1. So the rules are conceived somewhat along the lines of the way contests are scored. You're going to earn so many points for every contact you make, and that's going to be multiplied by a multiplier related to the number of locations from which you operate. So first we'll talk about the QSO points. So for every contact you make on any amateur band below 450 megahertz, the point value of every contact is based on the power source. So if you operate from a portable location in which you have access to the public power system, the mains electricity, and you use it, well, every contact is worth 1 point. If you set up and operate in a situation where you're using a battery or a generator as the source of energy for the contacts that you make, well, every contact is worth twice as much. It's worth 2 points. If you use some source of purely green power, solar panels charging up a battery, a windmill charging up a battery, for example. There may be other techniques that you can think of that would be purely green in the spirit of using green energy. Well, every contact made with those kinds of power sources is worth 4 points. Any contacts above 902 megahertz, no matter what your source of power, every contact is worth 10 points. So a lot of microwave operators tend to do hilltopping anyway and tend to operate with independent sources of power. But microwave hilltopping can be very challenging indeed. So we want to recognize the additional effort that's required for people to be doing things at 1 gigahertz, around 1 gigahertz and above. There's also a provision here for you to share your QSOs. If, for example, you were to go out on field day with your local club, field day is the obvious grandfather of all the portable operations. If you're to go out on field day with your club, the total number of contacts made by your club's effort divided by the number of operators who were present, it would be a share of the QSOs. So, for example, if you went out with your local club and there were 10 operators who went out on your field day operation and you made 500 QSOs, you would be able to go to fill in the form for the RAC Challenge, claiming 1/10 of that total, claiming your share of that total number of contacts. No matter who made how many contacts in your particular field day effort, you divide all the contacts amongst the operators who were present and engaged. So the idea here is that you can even attribute some of your efforts in a multi-op situation to your score in the challenge. A big part of amateur radio is our ability to provide service to the public. We provide this through public events of various kinds, providing communications during walkathons and bikeathons and various other kinds of fundraising affairs. We also take part in emergency exercises and actually take part in emergencies from time to time. Now, these are particular kinds of deployments, and really part of the idea of the challenge is to help you prepare to be a better, more useful person in these times when we need your skills for a public service event or for an emergency. So the idea here is every deployment, every day you spend in a deployment for a public service activity, whether it's a community service event, emergency exercise, or an actual emergency, it's worth 100 points a day. I think it's inappropriate in those circumstances to actually collect QSO totals or keep a log. So we don't want to see that. All we want to see, if you're going to if you're going to be part of one of these operations, claim 100 points for that operation. In this operation as well, in these kinds of operations, repeater use is an expected and normal part of those activities. So there's no prohibition on using repeaters for these kinds of public service activity. It's natural and normal and completely expected. So no one yet has made a claim for the 100 points related to a public service event. And we actually have a little bit more work to do on our reporting form to make that possible. But I'm sure it will be coming sometime in the next little while. Now, as I mentioned before, your score is composed of a certain number of points for making contacts and a multiplier based on locations. Now, in most contests, your multipliers are related to the number of different locations that you make contact with. Well, in the RAC Challenge, your multiplier is based on the number of different locations from which you operate. So over the course of a month, how many different locations do you set up in? How many different provinces and territories? Do you operate from one or more provinces? Do you maybe conduct a DXpedition to St. Paul Island or Sable Island? Do you operate from a multiplicity of grid squares? Do you even operate from the line where 2 grid squares meet, or even the corner where 4 grid squares could meet? If you're interested in the Parks in the Air, you might want to choose locations in the Parks in the Air program that fit with the kind of operation you want to do. You could set up in provincial parks, national parks, municipal parks, national historic sites. Anything that's recognized as an entity in the Parks in the Air program can be a multiplier in the RAC Challenge. The Islands on the Air program from the RSGB is a very well-known and well-respected program, and it focuses on activating islands, activating saltwater islands, islands in saltwater seas. And there are many IOTA groups located in Canada. In most of the provinces, I think in 6 of the 6 provinces of Canada, there are IOTA groups, and in all 3 territories. So IOTA groups, if you're interested in doing IOTA operations, you might provide an additional report after your operation to the RAC Challenge. Lighthouses are a particular fascination for many people. I've certainly activated several lighthouses in my time. The Amateur Radio Lighthouse Society has a list of lights, a list of entities they recognize as being aids to navigation and are valid for the purposes of their awards program. From the UK, the Summits on the Air program has increased in popularity over the last several years, and there are a number of very active Canadians who will set up their stations on hilltops, mountaintops, in somewhat inaccessible places, and to participate in the Summit on the Air activities. So again, these are all different parallel activities, all operations or all programs that promote portable operations, and they fit into the RAC Challenge. So if you can go out and choose locations that fit into one or more of these different programs, you can rapidly increase your score, perhaps by choosing a summit that is located in a provincial park that might be in sight of a lighthouse on an island. So that would be the trifecta if you could find such a location. Or over the course of the month, activate a series of locations, a series of different grid squares, maybe multiple provinces, maybe multiple parks, multiple islands, multiple lighthouses, and so on. So the idea here, this is to encourage you to set up your station in as many different locations and as many different kinds of location as possible. Now, every time you put in a report with our system, your progress will be tracked on 2 different web pages that appear on the RAC website. One is a monthly compilation of scores, and the other is an annual compilation of scores. So we'll take a look at each of these in turn. The monthly leaderboard, this is a fairly current one for September of the current month. The monthly leaderboard will show you, will list operators in order of their score. So if you take a look at the column that's next to the furthest on the right, the total score column, that is the column, that is the basis on which this column is ordered, or this chart is ordered. You can see the call signs of each individual operator indicated in on the left-hand side of the chart. And here next to that, you can see how many QSOs they made, and then how many QSO points. So you can infer from looking at the QSO points and looking at the QSO totals of what kinds of power they were using. If we take a look at V2NCG, he made 508 QSOs in the course of September to date, and those QSO points were worth, or those QSOs are worth 2,032 QSO points. That tells me that he's been using green power all the way along. And if we look along here, he's only operated from one province. He's been in 3 different grid squares, 23 parks in the air parks, but he hasn't activated any IOTA islands, any LHS lighthouses, or any SOTA summits. If we look down a little bit further, the next fellow down, V3JZT, it's made 453 contacts so far, 896 points. That tells me he's running off of batteries or a generator or something like that, because he's looking at 2 points of QSO. He's operated from only one province, but 6 grid squares and 12 photo parks and 1 lighthouse for a total multiplier of 20. Next person down, Chris, V3CBK, has made 91 contacts, but his QSO point total is 364. So that tells me Chris is using green power. Again, 1 province, 2 grid squares, 10 lighthouses, and a total multiplier of 13. So if you are clever about it, you can figure out a way to maximize your score by choosing multiple different locations that fit into 1 or more of these programs. You'll notice we actually have a few enthusiastic SOTA operators. A VA6MPM, according to this chart, has activated 3 SOTA summits so far. And let's see now, there also is V2DDZ has activated 2, and V2GT has activated 1. So there's you can see there are some elements of SOTA activity taking place in the challenge. So this provides you an updated moment-by-moment list of the scores made by each person in the challenge. And as soon as you put in a report in, your score will be modified on this chart. Now, if you take a look at the column that's over on the furthest on the left, the furthest on the right, you'll see the number of operations during that month is recorded. So Nick, V2NCG, has actually made 25 operations to date during the month of September. It'll probably be more by the time this airs. And you can see, as you go down the list, you can see how many operations each of those operators have made during the current month. The next chart is the annual leaderboard. This is where you see the accumulation of score that people make over a year. So the way that the challenge is set up, each month you accumulate a score based on the number of QSOs and the number of multipliers from which you activate. So once you have a score for 1 month, you start all over again the following month. And again, it's the number of contacts you make, the number of different multipliers that you activate during that month will determine your score for that following month, and so on. So you take a look at this chart. Again, you can see Nick, V2NCJ, a very enthusiastic operator. He was head and shoulders above everyone else during July. His score was a little bit down during August, but Len, V9MY, was head and shoulders above him during August, and then in September, Nick's score shot back up again, and to date in September he's got over 54,000 points. So what happens to make your annual score is the monthly score, the score that you make each month, is added to all of the other monthly scores that you make to provide an annual score. So at the end of 2021, when all of the reports are in for the current year, then we're going to have final scores based on the sums of the scores from each month made by each operator. So at the end of each month, another thing happens is after the 10th, so all of your reports have to be in by the 10th of the month. On the 10th of the month following, what we'll do is we'll take a look at the top 5 and we will create and send certificates to them. So you can see here, these are the top 5, the 5 winners for the month of August 2021. In first place was Len Morgan, V9MY, followed by Nick Gagnon, V2NCG, followed by Pierre Janet, V2GT, Kieran Shepard, VA3KS, and Eric Gosselin, VA2EO. So each of these received a certificate from RAC marking their achievement as being among the top 5 in the RAC Portable Operations Challenge for August. Now, like I say, at the end of the year, we're going to be doing the same thing. We'll be looking at the compilations of those monthly scores, the totaling of those monthly scores to determine who were the top 5 portable operators in the whole of 2021. And those operators will each receive a certificate from RAC. So a parallel to all of this, a part of the Portable Operations Challenge, is the Coureurs des Bois Award. Now, the Coureurs des Bois, you may recall your Canadian history from grade 10. Coureurs des Bois were normally European people coming to North America and engaging in trade with First Nations people. Of course, the fur trade was an important part of the establishment of this country. And the Coureurs des Bois were the people who did the work of going inland and trading goods for furs with First Nations people. So as an echo and an honor to the Coureurs des Bois, what we have created is a series of awards based on the idea of the traveling that you have to do in order to do well in the challenge. So if you go out over any period of time and make 25 portable operations, you will earn yourself a bronze level certificate in the Portable Operations Challenge. If over any period of time you make 50 operations, you'll earn yourself a silver certificate. And finally, if you make 100 operations, and only one person has done it so far, make 100 portable operations over any period of time, you will win a gold Coureurs des Bois certificate. And of course, Nick, V2NCG, he's been perhaps the most enthusiastic operator we've seen so far in the challenge. Nick was the first to earn bronze, silver, and gold certificates for his multiple portable operations. So again, remember, this award is based solely on the number of portable operations, not on your score. So for 2021, the award only started on the 1st of July on Canada Day. So we only have 6 months of scores to accumulate. The final results for 2021 will be and circulated on the 10th of January 2022, after that 10-day lapse when you can put in your scores. And I think we have to look at the first 6 months of the Portable Operations Challenge as being a learning experience. In the first several weeks, we had to make many adjustments to the reporting form to account for errors and areas of misunderstanding. We also had to do some advertising. We had to send out some RAC bulletins and do some other, have some articles in TCA announcing the RAC Challenge to try and drum up a little bit of interest. So far, it's been quite successful. We've seen quite a number of Canadians participate in the challenge. But of course, we have to look to the future. We want to make this a permanent fixture on the Canadian amateur radio landscape. So we're thinking about changes. What changes can we make, should we make in 2022? I've received a few requests from people to find a way to accommodate and recognize QRP operations. Now, a lot of portable operations use low power anyway. It's a natural part of the process of packing up your gear and going to a remote spot. You're not likely to bring a kilowatt, a beam, and a tower if you're going to be doing a portable operation. It's normally going to be lower power and batteries and relatively simple antennas. So how do we find the right way of accommodating QRP operations? I'd like to point out that some of the leading entrants that we've had so far have been QRP operators. So we've had QRP operators earning both bronze Coureurs des Bois and silver Coureurs des Bois, and we've had them place in the top 5 in the month-by-month challenge. For the scoring system, are we using the right multiplier schemes? So right now, we're looking at provinces, territories, and the 2 Canadian islands that form a DXCC entity. So if you operate from any of those locations, of course, anywhere you operate from Canada, you're going to fit into one of those. We're using grid squares as well. They're most popular on VHF and above, but there has been some occasional use of grid squares on HF. But again, making you aware of grid squares is perhaps one of the great functions of this if you weren't previously aware of them. The Parks in the Air program is a very popular program. Certainly, there are a number of Canadians who operate from Parks in the Air references. Is that the right one for parks? The Islands on the Air program, there are a number of Canadian islands that are part of IOTA. However, there are not IOTAs in every part of Canada. Is there another program we should be using rather than IOTA? The Amateur Radio Lighthouse Society is a very popular group that follows lighthouses and encourages lighthouse activity in amateur radio. Are they the right ones to be using? Should we be using lighthouses at all? And finally, SOTA. We're using Summits on the Air for some of our references. There are Summits in the Air associations right across the country that have established norms for what counts as a SOTA entity and what does not count as a SOTA summit. So is that the right thing to be using? Should we be including SOTA in this? So I want to leave these questions open. I believe that they are appropriate, but I'm interested in hearing other points of view. Another question, is the QSO point scheme appropriate? With 1 point for using public power sources, 2 points for using batteries or generators, 4 points per QSO for using any form of green power, and 10 points for microwave contacts. Is that the appropriate scheme, or should we be doing something better? Interested in hearing other ideas. On the Cool des Bois certificate, what do we do for somebody who makes many more than 100 operations? We've had bronze, silver, and gold up to 100 operations. Should we come up with other levels of Cool des Bois? Are there other things that we can do with the Cool des Bois award scheme that to encourage more portable operations? Or is 100 an excellent hallmark, and we can stop there? Are there other awards that we can incorporate into the RAC Challenge? For instance, are there other portable operations programs that we're missing that could be added? Are there awards that could be done on a province by province basis, territory by territory basis? Is there room here for clubs to engage their own members to get involved in the RAC Challenge, to set up an in-club challenge related to the RAC Challenge? For instance, I know my local club here in Fredericton, we have a couple of fellows who were quite keen on what they called scenic spots, or operation from scenic places in the autumn. And New Brunswick is full of scenic spots, just like every other province and territory is. Could the RAC Challenge be the means by which we get more people in your club active and setting up in the out of doors? Is there room here for trophies? Would there be clubs or organizations or individuals interested in sponsoring trophies for any of the top scorers, or maybe the top scorers on a province by province basis? What other things should we be doing with the challenge? Should we come up with bling? Should we be we already have a logo, but should we be coming up with merchandise that celebrate the Portable Operations Challenge? This is something you would like to see publicly identified by wearing some item of clothing to celebrate your operation. Is there something else that we can do to try and make the Portable Operations Challenge more attractive? Anyway, I've said quite a lot. I'm very interested in hearing your points of view on this. One of the great things about the Portable Operations Challenge starting at this year is that it runs hand in glove. It is completely compatible with the RACI celebration. Radio Amateurs of Quebec, or the Federation of Amateur Radio Clubs of Quebec, RACI, has been operating their own Quebec Parks on the Air since April of 2021. And all of the entities in the RACI Parks on the Air program are also entities for Parks in the Air, the larger Parks in the Air program, and for the RAC Challenge. So this has fit in very well and may explain why there has been such a surge of activity from VE2s. Anyway, I'd like to hear your points of view on this. I'm looking forward to engaging with you all in the question and answer period. Thank you very much.